Well, we know that every
Welcome to the Jehovah Chronicles with your host, Cosmon Cal.
It's your hostess with the mostest, burning like toast is Cosmon Cal checking back in. Hey, my boy shared this video with me about people having near or people about to die, right? And they are explaining that as they're getting closer to their death, people that they've mistreated in their life are coming back for them. Spirits, right? So I thought this would be a dope show to explain spirit retaliation. Now, a lot of people don't believe in it or don't understand it. Makes no difference what they believe, right? Makes no difference what they can currently understand. Doesn't change the fact that it happens. This same effect, right, of spirit attack is represented by people who come back from war, right? If you speak to most of them, right, they will tell you that they have dreams and nightmares. They hear screaming of the people that they may have unalived at some time during the war, and these spirits come back and not only speak them, but in many times attack them. You dig what I'm saying? And this is the misunderstanding of what they call PTSD, right? So with that being said, I wanted to get into this video. Shout out to Rosie. This is called Deathbed Confessions. Deathbed Confessions.
Just get some popcorn.
Okay, quick story that has me literally shaking right now. So for context, I drive trucks and I stop at this Denny's to grab a coffee because I'm addicted to caffeine. I went in there to get my coffee to go and then I walked to the bathroom. But as I'm walking to the bathroom, it's this old guy sitting to the left with about 12 people that's celebrating his 89th birthday. I got a call from my dispatcher and he was like, yo, you can chill, no rush. They're not ready for the freight, so you can relax a little bit. Sat down, ordered some food. So now I'm sitting like across from the guy that's celebrating his birthday. Time goes by, I'm down there at the end of my meal and everybody that basically came to celebrate with him had left. So now it's just him and his wife. So as I get up to go wash my hands, I see him and I give him a smile. I'm like, happy birthday, young man, 89. That's a lot of memory to have. Here's the thing. I don't even know why I said that. He could have had Alzheimer's. I'm not even sure what I meant by that. But that's what I said. And he said, well, thank you, young man. And he smiled. And he kind of just stared at me. And I just walked back there and washed my fucking hands. So I come back and his wife is gone. She's talking to some other lady that goes to the same church they do. And he sees me. He says, come here, come here, come here. And I say, yes. And he said, there are way too many things that I wish I could forget. And I said, yeah, man, you make it to damn near 100 years old. I'm pretty sure you got a handful of regrets. And he looked at me with the most serious look ever and said, you have no idea. Well, now I'm curious. Do tell. He said, I used to be a firefighter through the 60s and 70s. I said, that's what's up. That's a very commendable job. And he said, yeah, it should be. He said the 60s and 70s was a different time in every way possible. You know that, right? And I'm just like, yeah, no shit.
Now watch this. Before he even got there, right, about being a firefighter, instantly my mind jumped to move. Do y'all remember the movement out of Philadelphia? Young brothers, sisters getting together, putting it together, and then bought up the block, right? They was living in like a compound, and the police was harassing these people and put some fake warrants and came to arrest these people. But instead of arresting them, they shot at them and kept them in the building, and then dropped incendiary bombs out of police helicopters on top of the buildings. Right now, instead of putting it out, the firefighters just stayed still, and they watched the people scream and die. So my question is, what happens to the spirits of these people who watched you run up to the door and fake like you was about to save them, or came up with your fire truck and all this while the building is burning? These babies in here screaming. What happens to their spirits? Huh? Nobody ever thought to even think about it, huh? People just think they get away with it. You kill somebody, you get away with it? No, that's what I'm here to reveal to you. You don't.
He said, back in those times, I was a way different man, and who knew that we'd get to the point where we are in society today, and I'd be feeling the way I'm feeling about the decisions that I made back in those times. So I'm like, man, if you won't fucking tell me, bro. So right before he took a very long pause, he looked at me and said, back in those times, it was very common for firefighters that looked like me to leave people that looked like you and burning houses and buildings and horrible situations just to say they couldn't get to us. He said more times than he'd like to admit, he would hear screaming black people and children in burning buildings and houses and apartments and stores and cars, and he would literally just pretend he didn't hear it. He said his last time doing it was when he made eye contact with the baby that he deliberately went into a building to save and deliberately didn't. And he said that was the last time he did it, and he quit that year. He said the nightmare still hasn't stopped. He still hasn't forgiven himself, and therapy helps, but
You see now? What did he say? Them dreams get me. Conscience eating at you. You thought you got away with it. That's what the thing was. He thought he got away with it. But you didn't get away with it. What happens to the spirits of those people? If reaping and sowing is a truth, right? If you must reap what you sow, and you do these devilish, dirty acts, yet you go on to living, how do you reap in this life, and must you reap in the next life? Yes.
it's still a living nightmare to have those memories. And I guess that shit just shocked me so much because when it came to firefighters, I never thought of them like that. Like when it came to like police officers, lawyers, and judges, and everybody else, we knew they didn't give a fuck, especially police officers. We knew they didn't give a fuck about us. But I don't know why that didn't click to me that, no, it was everybody that hated us. Everybody. Everybody had a hand in deliberately making our lives worse. When I calmed down from being mad enough to want to pull the plug on his ass, I thought about it. And I was like, of course they did this. Of course they did this shit. Duh. Like, why was I even shocked? Like, of course. But it is something that I cannot think about for too long, because that visual of you fake going to save somebody and not saving them because of the color of their skin and the entire 911 understanding, because, oh yeah, you couldn't get Jamal. Oh well, just another one gone. Like that shit. I don't know. The conversation ended with him staring at me, making that last statement, and me staring back at him, telling him, I gotta finish my route. I hope you enjoy the rest of your birthday. And the last thing he said is, I hate myself for it. And I said, My boss is calling. I hope you enjoy the rest of your birthday. I've had so many people hit me up in my DMs to tell me that shit is still going on. So many 911 workers to tell me, so many nurses, so many cops, so many people tell me.
Question: what happens to the spirits who die in these harrowing fashions? You think they just poof and, you know, they just stop existing?
That shit is still going on. And it's weird because it's like, you ever find out some information you already knew the answer to? It's like, yeah, I know that, but to hear it out loud from people that know it for sure is way different. I don't know why he chose to tell me, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only black person that he stopped and told this shit to. Just don't understand how somebody can be so evil and just one day not be. How a society can give birth to and breed so many heartless, soulless people for them to just wake up one day and be like, maybe we made a mistake. And this is just one of the few of them that feel like they actually made a mistake. A lot of them feel like it was nothing wrong with what they were doing and wish everything was still the fucking same. Here's the thing. This incident happened over 3 months ago. I recorded that video 3 months ago. It's been in my draft that long. I didn't want to fucking post it, but for whatever reason, I could not delete this shit. So the other day when I was going through all my drafts and I was looking and I was going through and trying to figure out what to post, I kept seeing that shit, and I swear to God, something said, post it now. Post it now. Because I usually just delete them after a couple days if I don't post them. But something said, post it now, right fucking now. And I did. And I really wish he didn't tell me this shit, because me being cursed with the burden of that information did nothing but fuel my imagination, and now I can't get the images out of my fucking head. But also, we have images of racist white firefighters spraying black people with the fire hose on the hardest pressure, ripping our fucking skin off. And this is shit that we can Google. We can look that up on YouTube. Then why is it so hard to hear that they let us burn? Why does that feel like a different level of evil? Why is that still so surprising? Like, but then again, it's not. But yeah.
You see, you never truly get away with it, right? You think that the creator of all, because you die, you physically die, that the things that you've done, the negative seeds that you've planted, don't continue to grow? You think the creator isn't real because you died? For instance, that'd be like saying gravity stopped because somebody died. It's not logical. So if reaping and sowing is true, you must reap in this life and also in the next. But remember, this is Jehovah Chronicles number 173, Spirit Retaliation. So let's get a little information on spirit retaliation. I guess the question should be, can spirits retaliate on living men? Right? Let's go down here into the book of the Ark of Bond, right? Chapter 10, we're going to start at 14. Now, as a little context, this is the great prophet Kapilya of ancient Hindustan speaking to a king, right? And the king is asking him questions. Let's go. The king said, I have killed many men in my day. Do you say I have sinned? Kapilya said, inquire of your creator. I am not your judge, nor any man's. The king asked, if a man is killed and his soul lives, right? So if you kill the physical body and yet his soul goes on and lives, He says, then the killing amounts to little. Y'all peeping his logic? Evil, but logical. He says, we put away the body, but the soul may come back and retaliate. Is it not so? Capella said, yes, O king. Let's go back. The king asked, if a man is killed and his soul lives, then the killing amounts to little. He says, we put away the body, we kill the body, but the soul may come back and retaliate. Is this true? Capella said, yes. Right? The king reflected a while, and then he asked, my son, can the spirits of those we have slain catch us in heaven and injure us? Huh? Remember little blood you was beefing with around the corner? Remember little cuz from the city over y'all was beefing with? Yeah, let me bring it home and make it plain for you. Remember little homeboy you was beefing with around the block? Remember when y'all shot and killed that nigga? Huh? You was beefing? Can he come back and get you? This is what the king asked. Look what Capella the great prophet said. Yes, O king. The king said, and they, having been in the heaven first, have the advantage in battle. And if they go in gangs and have a leader, they might do great hurt. No, O Capella, I have a great secret for your philosophy, which is when death draws near, we begin to shake in the soul as to what we have done all our lives. Sometimes I think of saying to Deus or Deus or God, right? Here, I will pray to you. But then I remember I have no merchandise that he would accept. How strong we are in health and prosperity, and yet how weak in adversity and in death. He said, do you think prayers would make a case stand better would make my case stand better in heaven? Look what Capella says. Capella says, I am not the master in heaven. Or if I were, my love for you would shield you from all darkness. The king said, the priest says, if I pay him money, the priest says, if I pay him money, he can intercede with Deus, God, and so secure me a high seat in heaven. Look what the king said. The king said, I think he's full of BS. For why? For Deus owes him nothing. Two things I have found, even with my little wisdom, said the king. Both the caterer to the king and the caterer to God make great pretenses. They fake it, but actually do little regarding their promises. These two men on my son, the dude who kiss up to you and the dude who kiss up to God, he say, beware of them. Huh? So we're starting to see through this that the soul of a man, especially one that you have slain and killed, took in his life, you shot him, you slid on the block, you double back, not only can, but has the right to retaliate against you. We're going to go ahead and back that up right now. All right. This is the book of the prophet, right? This is the book of the prophet, another book um, automatically written, reportedly by John Baloo Newberg. But what's so special about this book, right? And made me look at JB in a little different was in this book, he tells what happens to the people who were enslaved in America. Not only does he tell what happens to the slave in this world, but he also tells what happens in the next world. And not only does he tell what happens to the slave, but he tells what happens to slave master. Let me blow this up a little bit for y'all. Maybe get a little better look at it. Dig this. This is the book of the prophet, right? It says, to the nation who saith, behold me, my people are free, and all men participates in the government of men, so shalt thou be bound, both in this world and the next, wherein thou didst bind thy people in slavery. When you bound your people in slavery, the judgment of thy God is upon all the people. Nevertheless, doubly bound is he who directly held his fellow man in bondage. Nor hath the Creator, who is over all, limited his times and seasons by the death of any man. So you can't even die and get away from the evil works and the injustice you may have brought to the world yourself. You can't get away from this. So imagine the boundness being created by a person who actually held people enslaved, right? What about the people who died in ignorance in that slavehood? You don't think they feel a certain way about that? You didn't get away with it. First of all, you know, just like I know, you didn't get away with it because you is having them dreams. They are haunting you. Them spirits is still upset at you. And by the tie that binds, what is called a deed. You do something good or bad, it ties you. Nor hath the Creator, who is over all, limited his times and seasons by the death of any man, but they who commit crime shall answer in the next world for the sins done in this one. So you can't even die and get away with it. You thought you shot that boy and got away with it. First of all, you know for a fact, them spirits come back. Ask your granddaddy if he was ever in war. Have you ever seen any of them spirits? Do they come back to him in the daytime? Not only while he's sleeping. Look, God said, because thy slaves went out in darkness and have become wandering spirits, dwelling in ignorance around about the earth, there is no resurrection for them in this day, today, 2024. The heavens of thy God are above them, nor have they looked. Remember what we're talking about. It's a spirit retaliation. Can the spirits retaliate? Now, the people slain by the king, we know that they can come back and retaliate. But what about the people who have been enslaved, hurt, injured, oppressed, genocided, by a people? What happens to them? Do they still hold on to that vengeance? And do they come back and mess over the people? Watch this. Nor have they put away the vengeance in their hearts because of the injustice done to them in mortality or in real life. He said they ain't stopped being mad. They upset right now. He said tens of millions of them loiter about their old places, even as they lived on earth, but with evil intent on the living. Tens of millions of them loiter about in their old places. What you mean in their old places? Right where they lived. Right where their light was snuffed out at is where it continues to grow and continue to stay. It doesn't actually grow in goodness and light and rise. It grows darker, more hateful, more vengeful. Can y'all say that y'all wouldn't have been holding a grudge had you been enslaved? I'm talking about still today. Let's say you was enslaved in 1850. Let's just say. You saying in 150 years you could have gave it up? That's just, I think that'll be very hard for a lot of people. But we learning right now, it's tens of millions of women. And they right here on earth, right next to you. They loiter about in their old places, even as they lived on earth, but with evil intent on the living, and they pursue the living with wrath, tormenting them day and night with evil inspirations.
Disclaimer, this is not my story. I may forget bits and pieces of the story as I go along because this all went down last summer. Basically, on Twitter, there was a nurse that was saying the amount of times I've heard a racist confess something heinous to me while they were in hospice care, I've lost count. And other nurses took the screenshot and replying to it on Nurses of TikTok and were making videos of how racist people were on their deathbeds and were explaining how their patients were begging for forgiveness and stuff like that. Trigger warning to this story. So the story goes, a nurse was attending to a patient who was in hospice care. The patient then confesses to the girl that she basically lied and was envious of a little black girl in her family because the little black girl had a cute dress. The patient also admits that she lied on the brother of the black family, basically saying that the little boy touched her. And you know how that song and dance goes. She went to the community, started crying, the works and everything, and the community got worked up and went to the people's house. And so the people rolled up on the black family, burned their house to the ground, hung the little boy, chopped off his private parts as punishment. And she can still remember the flames of the house. After that, the patient tells the girl, or the nurse basically, not to leave her side because she sees a little black boy in the corner of her room staring at her. And the girl basically went, "It's above me now. It's out of my control." Somebody said it was on Reddit, the Deathbed Confessions, and basically there were CNAs, nurses, and staff basically retelling tales of these racist people that were on their deathbed confessing to heinous crimes. There was one where, of course, cops were saying, I pulled over people just out of spite and all that kind of stuff. But then the women's were like, they were a part of some heinous mess. Another significant one was another patient who was on her deathbed, of course, and was a nurse. And she admitted to killing a bunch of black babies. She was a labor and delivery nurse. Some would be a feel good of like the wife finally leaving an abusive relationship and, magically their husbands got sick. But then the ones that were like jaw to the floor, people were wilding, and they're still like, their descendants are maybe 50, 60 years old. It just made me really sick to my stomach reading some of these stories and hearing nurses my age talk about it. And I wish I could tag the person who it was, but it made the news. It was really like, it was big.
Does not. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Bruh. This older man was like 90, He was 91. And he always had this like brown burlap sack, like leather looking sack, right? And whenever I would ask him about it, he was like, "Oh, it was just it was like great. It was a few greats down the line, right?" And he said it was like a family tradition to pass it on to the son. He was like, "But I never had a son, I only had daughters, so I take it with me to my grave." So time comes, man finds out he has maybe 2 to 3 weeks left to live, and he like sitting there doing the normal daily routine, taking care of himself. He was like, "Well, you always ask me about this bag. It was actually the skin of one of my great, great, great whoever's slave. And it's been passed down for generations."
Let that sink in for a second. Let it sink in for a second. Watch this. Watch this, y'all.
Get with me to my grave. So time comes, man finds out he has maybe 2 to 3 weeks left to live. And he like sitting there doing the normal daily routine, taking care of himself. He was like, "Well, you always ask me about this bag. It was actually the skin of one of my great, great, great whoever's slave. And it's been passed down for generations." All right.
Let it sink in. He had to tell it. It was impressed on his soul. He was fearing hell because he knows now that he's getting in age, right? You're getting a little of that wisdom. With that wisdom come understanding. And one of the greatest understandings that you come out to find in your elder age is that the spirit world is real. That thing that makes your body go, go, go is real. It don't stop. You dig what I'm saying? It doesn't stop. Right? And for tyrants, kings, queens, oppressors, emperors, pharaohs, despot kings, sachems, you dig what I'm talking about, who were to the detriment and declination of their people. There is a price to pay. Right? In this world and the next. But what y'all got to understand is this is a natural thing. Right? This is natural. And been going on since day one. This is the book of Jehovah 8:4. It says, "The angels under you shall become at times rebellious and defiant, disregarding your laws and decrees. And they shall desert your heavenly places and go down to the earth in millions and hundreds of millions. And they shall drive away the Ashars." What is an Ashar? An Ashar is your guardian angel. So these spirits in declension, falling back to the earth, deserting heaven, drive away the natural guardian of the soul, and then assume guardianship over the mortal. But they shall develop no righteousness under the sun, and they will inspire mortals to war and destruction. And these angels will themselves take to war and evil throughout the place of your heavens, and with foul gases of Atmospherea they shall make weapons of war and places of torment. Y'all want me to bring that back one more time, make it real time? With the hate, with the trolling, with the fakeness, with the bitch assness of the atmosphere, they shall make weapons of war. Right? They're going to make the Draco. They're going to make the Scar. They're going to make the glizzy, huh? With the switchy on the back. And they're going to build places of torments. They called hoods. Huh? So with all that hate, all that mistrust, huh? All that anger, they're going to make weapons of war and put you in the hood. And with these elements, the music, the visual, the drugs, the guns, the lifestyle, even the thought of the American dream. Huh? With these, they will make suffocating hells in order to cast one another into chaos. This is the understanding or the misunderstanding. The lowest part of the atmosphere is called Hada or Hades. Right? In Hades, there are people who are in a point of pure anarchy. Those spots and positions on earth are called hells or knots. Right? We're going to go on further to describe one. Right? But they're going to make these suffocating hells in order to cast one another into chaos. And the mortals slain in war. The mortals slain from sliding. Huh? The mortal slain from putting in work shall be born in spirit into chaos and madness. So imagine you getting shot in your face and you blinking out, right? You blink your eye for a minute. You really did, but you don't even know you did because your spirit keep going on. But in the spirit life, you constantly running and running, trying to fight and shoot and do all this stuff, but you dead. Your body on the ground, but your spirit is in chaos. It don't know what happened. And entering to the spirit world in chaos, they shall not know they dead. But what do? They keep fighting left and right, nonstop. Fighting. Fight. Could you imagine fighting for your life or feeling like you're fighting for your life every second for the next 100 years? Could you imagine? It never stops. Huh? Whole time you done got shot in the head and didn't know it. Right? But let's say you got some beef. Yeah, you was big dog on these streets. They caught up with you. They done shot you though. Killed you. Crazy part is you was birthed in spirit where? Where was you birthed in spirit? On the battlefield. You got shot on the corner of Slauson and Crenshaw. You got shot on the corner of 7 Mile and Gratiot. Y'all feeling me? Your spirit will be birthed right next to your body in chaos. Your last feelings was fear as them bullets shot by you. And guess what? You still get to plot and plan on them. This is spirit retaliation. They was born right there on Slauson and Crenshaw, right where you laid them down at. In chaos. Their mind is erratic. Huh? What? They shall be born into spirit. So that means they died, right? In the chaos, on the corners, and entering into spirit world in chaos, they shall not know they are dead as the spirit light, but shall keep fighting left and right. An enemy shall take enemy in these heavens and cast them in the places of torment, which they shall have built, and shall not know peace or wisdom. But what is a hell? Real talk. Let's get a look at what's scaring these people. This is hell from Wikipedia, right? A lot of people say Wikipedia ain't a good source or whatever, for information. I would disagree for the simple fact, you go down here to the bottom, right? It gives you the references where everything that's being stated is being pulled from, right? Egyptian Book of the Dead. Watch this. Look, the Egyptian Book of the Dead ain't even 1400 BC. It's a baby. You dig what I'm saying? But this is why I would debate anybody that Wikipedia is not a good place to pull information from. I don't say you use it as your necessary source, but as in a place where massive amount of information is stored, it's a good place to go. And let's get a definition on here. Let's see what's got these people so spooked. But it's something got to be spooking them in real life too. Not just the idea that, something can happen to you after you die. They know something can happen to you after you die, but how do they know? In the scientific field, they call this PTSD. But let's get a little insight on what hell is through the religious folklore, right? In religion and folklore, hell is a location or state in the afterlife in which souls are subjected to punitive suffering, most often through torture, as punishment after death. What we're finding out is what's actually happening is you're punishing yourself for your deeds. What you've done is, or like they like to say, the chickens are coming home to roost. The deeds you are done, you are now reaping the results. Religions with a linear divine history often depict hells as eternal destinations. The biggest examples of which are Christianity and Islam, whereas religions with reincarnation usually depict hell as an intermediary period between incarnations, as is the case in the Indian religions. Religions typically locate hell in another dimension or under the earth's surface. What if it's on the earth's surface? And what if hell is not necessarily a place, but a condition? We're just getting what's commonly known about hell regularly, right? Then we're going to go into a waspy and see what a waspy got to say about it, right? Other afterlife destinations include heaven, paradise, purgatory, limbo, the underworld, nirvana. Other religions, which do not conceive of the afterlife as a place of punishment or reward, merely describe an abode, an abode of the dead, the grave, a neutral place that is located under the surface of the earth. For example, Ker, right? Ker, right? The Mesopotamian underworld, or Hades, right? Where did they even get this name from, right? Or the Greek underworld, or Sheol of the Hebrew Bible. Such places are sometimes equated with the English word hell, though a more correct translation would be underworld or world of the dead. The ancient Mesopotamians, Greek, Roman, and Finnic religions include entrances to the underworld from the land of the living. Remember, when we just looked at the definition of hell, we seen in hell the word Hades, right? And even though it comes down to us through Greek, right, that is not its source, right? But yet the connotation of Hades and hell still holds truthful, right? Watch this. This is OSP encyclopedia, definitions in the back of the book, right? We're in H and we're looking up Hada. But remember, the word Hades was thrown in there. What is Hada? It is Atmospherea. It is the atmospheric area between the surface of the earth, right? Until you exit out our atmosphere, which is past beyond the moon, right? That is our atmosphere, right? In that area, the gaseous material or atmospheric or spiritual material is kept, right? This is why they always tell you heaven is in the sky and hell, Hada, is on the ground or in the ground, under the ground, right? Because what? It is the atmosphere. It is Atmospherea, or the lowest part of the atmosphere. So roughly just above the clouds on down. It's a literal space. It's the lowest part of our atmosphere, right? It is the heavens of the earth, literally. Called Hada, or look, Hades. Hades, we always know, is called hell. Hades also came to mean what? The lower grade heavens that rest on or near the earth, as differentiated from the higher grade atmospheric heavens. Hada is the first place for the spirits of the dead. So remember, they was talking about a Sheol, a Ker, a Hades was the first place that these spirits is going. Owaspi correlates, but with far more detail. But let's get down here to hell and see what actually hell is. Hell is anarchy in heaven, especially in Hada. Where is Hada? We just read that, right? It is the lower heavens that rest on or near the earth. To stop all confusion, roughly from where planes fly, 30,000, 25,000, 30,000 feet down to the ground, or right above the clouds down to the ground, is Hades, or Hada, right? In that region, in the lowest part of the breathable part of the atmosphere, right? You have a condition called hell. It is anarchy in heaven, especially in Hada, what? The lowest heaven, where angels torment one another, So in Hades, they have a certain section called hell. What's going on in hell is where angels torment one another. So all the lower atmosphere or lower heaven isn't in hell. The actual place where angels torment one another is called a knot. The condition is hell. Now, when an earthly tyrant, remember them kings and queens, them despots, the Hitlers of the world, Pol Pots, King Leopolds, when they die, they homeboys that they led astray, the evil spirits, seize his newborn spirit for vengeance sake. Remember, this is 173. Spiritual retaliation. We're talking about spiritual retaliation. And we seeing right here that evil spirits can seize a tyrant, a newborn king, somebody who had led the people astray. You did what I'm talking about? You did anything wrong, you got to pay for it. You spilled any Kool-Aid, you got to clean it up. You. But what about the men whose ideas, thoughts, and deeds affect millions in the country? When they die, evil spirits seize them. He seizes his newborn spirit for vengeance sake and cast him into a hell. Let's go describe one of these. Now, this is one of the dope things about OWASP. It gives you situations to show, you dig what I'm talking about, in real time, in real life, and things you may have not have known about. And what's going, so you can compare it to what's going on around you today, right? Now, remember, we're talking about these hellish situations and spiritual retaliation. Now, let's already go to these false lords, gods, right, who have assumed these titles and certain names and playing off that they the creator, right? They already in the spirit. What happens to a despot God, right? And remember those hellish regions in the lower heavens, right? We're going to go see what they're called and how they're started. This is the book of Osir, chapter 5. We're going to start at 10, right? Osir has sent out he has come back to earth to set things in order. He's a disciplinarian. He sent some of his angel ambassadors out to tell the false gods, get down and lay down, right? So as we're picking up in the story, we see Wang Di, right? Who, by the way, if you look over there, is still a god today and is represented as a Negro, right? But we find out that the real Wang Di or Wang Di is a female, right? Watch this though. I just thought that was a little, little extra, little sauce on there, a little FYI. You know what I mean? So he sent his angel to a false god who was taken upon the name Devas, right? Now we picking up where Wang Ti, who is an archangel, by the way, who was working under a true god named Osir, who's greater than she is. Chill out. Now, Wang Ti, the archangel, said to Devas, right? Or Devas, the false god, in your own falsehood, you are favored to free yourself a while, to organize a new kingdom, but in holiness, and then return and command obedience from this smothering host. What is she talking about? He had a kingdom, right? He had got people to praise him under the name Devas. If you never heard of the name Devas, punch it up, look it up. You're going to see it's in India. This is a name for lower or demonic spirits in India, right? It says, so she's saying, you know, while you got the time to get this together, look, go ahead, get yourself right, come back in righteousness, man, and you did what I'm talking about. You conduct this. You just got to do right. He said, behold, you have taught them, your people, to believe you are Apollo. So Devas was telling the people he was Apollo. Say to them now, I am not Apollo. I have been false. Look what Devas said. Devas madly replied, never. The creator and his kingdoms be accursed forever. Oh, he mad. He big mad. He said, you strange spirits come from afar off kingdoms to despoil and overturn the most righteous place in heaven. He said, our creator and his servants destroy us. To which Wang Di replied, look, this ain't no time for all that talking. This ain't no time for all that argument. Your gums is bumping. But look at all these countless millions of people. Your fake ass got them to praise you as Apollo. Huh? You got them to praise you. They followed you into death with this understanding. When they crossed over, they were still calling out for Apollo. She said, look at all these niggas. It's countless millions of them. She say, look, your gums is bumping. But you don't see all these people out here. Look, if you don't do something, first of all, come clean. You dig what I'm talking about? First of all, come clean. We can't do nothing for you. Watch what she say. She say, if I and my attendants withdraw from you, you will be as one drowned amid a sea of ignorance and horrid smells. Remember they was telling you about in the description of hell that it was a place of horrid smells and torture and all this. What we're finding out is that these areas are started by despot men, despot gods, right? Who, being found out in their falsity, they people run up on them. She said, we the only reason we here, that's the only thing holding you back from being in the countless millions of a ball of ignorance and horrid smells. Of people in adoration to you, oh, Apollo, just grabbing all on you. You know, people mad that you was fake and false, and you dig what I'm talking about? Now they just pressing up on you. This is what a real hell is, a knot. K-N-O-T, knot. She said, assume at once, for pity's sake, to purge yourself of your lifelong falsehoods and treacherous tyranny. Announce yourself as Devas as you are, and I can save you. Look, she gave him a chance. You've been telling these people all this time your name was Apollo. Your real name is Devas. She said, look, come clean, man. I can help you out. Look what Devas did. Devas rudely thrust her aside. He brushed past her, saying, never. I acknowledge to no one. If there is a higher heaven, I will ascend there as I am. Apollo. Wang Ti said, do not put me off. Hey, look, I'm trying to tell you. In the Creator's name, look, man, look, I swear to God. That's what she just said. She said, nigga, stop fronting. Remember what you are. And from what little you have seen, how powerless you are before the great omnipotence. Mm-hmm. Okay. So Devas rudely thrust her aside, saying, never. I acknowledge to no one. If there is a higher heaven, I will ascend there as I am Apollo. Wang Ti said, look. Don't put me off. Don't act like I ain't here. You hear me talking to you. In the Creator's name, he said, remember what you are for real. And from the little you have seen, and hence the little you know, how powerless you are before omnipotence. Your fate is like that of all dictators. Your fate is like that of all dictators on the verge of chasm of horrors. Devas did not wait to hear her further, but proclaimed aloud, Apollo, and stood aside. Presently, his former officers rushed to him, and with that came the sea of millions of spirits, unorganized, unwashed, unfed, frightened, and mad for love of the name Apollo, a meaning of which they did not even know. And they became as a knot. Y'all seen that? And they became as a knot. Right? Hold on, let's go back. Right? This is what a hell is. Remember what they said? This is when a tyrant dies. She said you going the same way as all tyrants. Evil spirit sees his newborn spirit for what? Vengeance sake. Cast him to a hell. A knot. Right? A knot. Hold on. Let me go back. That's 5. And they became as a knot of serpents. So imagine it. All in time, all on top of each other, all piled in, moving and pushed in, stinking, sweaty, unwashed, unorganized, unfed, frightened, and angry. All for the name of the love of Apollo, or all for the name of the love of Allah, or all for the name of the love of Christ. All for the name of the love of Buddha. All for the name of the love of Brahma. The meaning of which none of these niggas even know. And they became as a knot of serpents entwined around the central figure, Divas, and his officers. And in the terrible brawl, not one voice could be distinguished from another. Think about this, y'all. Like a ball of serpents entwining on itself. So it's just like a roar. You can't even distinguish one person from another. And the outer extreme of it pressed inward on every side. And presently, The 800 million. What did it do? It resembled a ball, a knot. This is what a true hell is. Right? What they call hell is actually a knot of darkness, a mass of men impressed inward on a central figure. And with a dull and rumbling moan within, fearful clamor on the surface, from which horrid smells issued in all directions. So now we got a physical description of actually what a hell is. And the true name of it is not.
This is one of the more interesting ones because there was a guy who was terrified of me taking care of him the entire time that I worked there. So when his official hospice announcement was made and he had maybe 2 months to live, I believe it was, he had told me why he was terrified of me taking care of him. He said it was because I looked like one of the kids that his dad and his brothers killed in front of him. And I had the exact same face as that kid. And every time he saw me, he thought it was somebody coming back for revenge for him. I, of course, had to report this to my supervisor, and then they took me off of taking care of him for the remainder of his time. And they monitored him a lot. And there would be some days where I'd have to cover shifts in there. And he would just be utterly terrified by the sight of me. That guilt runs really strong with them. I've gotten this comment a lot, and yes, there's a whole procedure. You write down every detail they give you, and then police reports are filed. They're reported to the higher-ups. They usually die before any real prosecution go through. But if they have any leads that can help with old cases, it does help. But I mean, what can you do to that person? Families are usually informed right after they're kicked out of the facility and have to be in a hospital until they pass. But I haven't worked there in 6 years. The facility got shut down. They were sued. There was a whole class action lawsuit. Hell of us got paid out for emotional distress and a lot of other things. But yeah, there was a lot going on there.
When your dad was chief of police here, he come home and told me he knew three or four guys that was supposedly good citizens, but they was in the KKK, and he told me their names. I'm not going to tell their names. I think they're still alive. They may be dead.
Who are they?
I ain't going to put this name out there. It's too close to our...
Who?
His husband's daddy is the one. He was postmaster. But your daddy found how he found out. He went up and went through the trash.
So the Jacksons?
No, his name wasn't that. Yeah, maybe it was that. Yeah, I guess it was.
And what happened?
The other one was Earl Poe. And his boy was a basketball player. He used to come scouting out with Tony when Tony was real little.
Okay, but what happened with what Dad said?
Your dad got suspicious of him because it's 3 or 4 guys was always getting together. And he told me that he went up there in the trash barrels by the post office. He dug out all the mail that he saw there where they was getting their mail and just put it in that trash can. And he got the mail out and read it. And that's how he found out they was with the KKK.
And what did he do?
Nothing. You didn't do nothing to them guys.
Why?
They was good guys there.
I've literally watched all the stitches to this video, but this story that I'm about to tell today, even though it happened years ago, still gives me chills, and I feel like it has a lot to do with why I quit my job. So I used to work in long-term care, for those of you that don't know, pretty much a nursing home. I was a certified nursing assistant out of high school. This was my first big girl job, okay? So when I first started, I didn't know a lot about the different types of shifts, but there's pretty much 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7. I worked the 7 to 3, which was 7 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. As time went on, I slowly started to transition to 3 to 11 to work around my college courses. But every now and then I would pick up an 11 to 7 shift. It didn't take long before I started working there where people were telling me about this one particular resident that had an issue with people of a certain color coming into his room. I didn't have too much interaction with this resident because, like I said, I only worked 7 to 3, and you didn't have to do a lot for him. Just go in and check on him and make sure he was okay. Bring him his food tray. Every now and then he might ask you for help to go to the bathroom, but that was about it. I had heard that this resident could get kind of nasty sometimes. I also heard that he had dementia, so he was like seeing stuff. And I also remember going in his room a couple times and seeing all of the mirrors in his room covered up. This is going to come back later. So on my first 11 to 7, we'll call this nurse Patty. Patty pulled me aside and she was like, hey, this is the list of people pretty much doing a report for when I first, clocked in, starting my shift. She told me who I had, who was total assist, which I had to do everything for, and who I could pretty much, let. So I noticed that this list had this certain patient's number on it, this certain resident's number on it. His room number was on there. But instead of it saying, just limited assistance or whatever, it was like total assist. So I asked, I'm like, I know I have him during the day and I just go in and check on him and make sure he's okay. If he rings the call light, I'll go in. But other than that, that's about it. When did he become a total assist? So she proceeds to tell me that the night before, he got so scared and so frantic and thought something was in his room that he jumped out of his bed and fell on the floor and did something to his hip. So at this point, currently, he's a total assist, meaning I have to go in, I have to check on him, I have to do everything for him. I said, cool, no problem. I start doing my rounds, I start checking on my people, passing out ice water, changing people, as I normally do. Literally not even 15 minutes into my shift, his call light is on. I go in, I make sure everything's okay. As soon as I get in, I kid you not, this man is literally in the fetal position. I walk up to him and I ask him if everything's okay. Obviously, when I walk up to him, I'm very careful because, like I stated before, he did not like people of my color coming into his room. During the day, he would make a big deal out of this. Like, if he could get a nurse or a nursing assistant of a different color, he definitely would. He did not pay that any mind. He literally jumped straight into, they're in here, they're after me, please help me. I'm looking like, who is they? He's like, you don't see that little boy behind you? No, I can't say that I do, sir. So it took me literally 15 minutes, and by the grace of God, I was able to calm this man down. We're going to call him Mr. Johnson. After I calmed Mr. Johnson down, I left out of the room, and I went and did my rounds like usual. Literally, not even 10 minutes later, he's back on the call light. I said, okay, maybe he's got to go to the bathroom or something. I don't know. So I went in, checked. This time when I went in the room, I noticed that the room was extremely cold. Extremely cold. When I went in there, earlier, it was not cold like that. Now, the nursing home, that nursing home in particular was a little colder on a graveyard shift. But when I tell you it was cold to the point where I could see my breath cold. At this point, not only is he in the fetal position, but he is also under the covers and he is also crying. So I walk up to him. I lift the cover up. I look under the cover. Again, he's sitting under there. We make immediate eye contact and he's like, help me, please help me. So I'm trying to calm him down because whatever he's seeing, I'm just not seeing it. So I'm like, Mr. Johnson, I'm going to need for you to cooperate with me. I'm going to need for you to tell me what's going on so I can better assist you and we can get through this shift together. At this point, I'm doing what I've been taught to do for somebody that's going through a dementia or Alzheimer's crisis, which is what I was told that he had. He calms down a little bit and he literally just starts talking. And when I tell you this got crazy quick, it got crazy quick. So he's telling me that when he was younger, about in his 20s or 30s, he was married to a young woman. We're going to call her Maggie. Him and Maggie had just bought a farm. It was literally just him and Maggie. And before you knew it, Maggie got pregnant. Back then, it literally wasn't uncommon to have people of color hired as help to help you on the farm, to help you raise kids, whatever the case may be. This was post-slavery, but people was very much still feeling entitled to doing whatever they wanted to do to people of color. So that's the time frame we in. He tells me that months go down the line, whatever. He goes and he wakes up early one morning. He sees that his wife is a little uncomfortable. She tells him like maybe the baby's coming or whatever. He doesn't think nothing of it. He goes out, get on his tractor, and he does his farm work. He has a farmhand named Tommy. Tommy is a black man, okay? Around lunch, he's guessing is when his wife went into labor while he was still out in the field.
I want y'all to listen to this. Listen to this very close. What's about to happen?
His wife called her mother-in-law, which was Mr. Johnson's mom, her sister-in-law, and his brothers came as well. Everybody's making sure that everything's going okay. The baby is finally born at some point. When the baby is born, I guess everybody in the room looked around at each other and realized that this baby was not in no way, shape, or form white. The brothers immediately take the baby and they go outside. His mom sits there with her and they snatch this baby and they take the baby outside. Meanwhile, all this is going on. Him and Tommy are still out in the field. They took this baby out into a body of water, and I will not be saying what they did to this baby, but you can only imagine for the time period. Him and Tommy finally wrap up their work for the day and he heads back to the house. When he gets inside the house, he sees his wife sitting there with his mother. His wife is crying. His mom's just sitting there irritated and pissed off. He asks what's going on, and that's when she gives him the whole rundown that your wife was pretty much sleeping with your field hand, and this is the situation that you're in. So he asks, where's the baby? And the mom says, your brother's taking care of it. Don't worry about it. You need to figure out what you're going to do with her. Meanwhile, this is going on. His brothers have went and got Tommy out of the field. The things that they did to Tommy, again, I cannot describe it here on TikTok, but just imagine the torture and everything that he went through. They literally just left him there in that field. They left him there in the middle of the field. This man proceeds to tell me that when he finally figures out what happened and what his brothers did, they literally acted like nothing ever happened. And every night, Tommy and his son will come and visit him like clockwork. At this point, when I tell you the chills are running up my spine, literally every hair on my body is sticking up. I don't know what to say. I'm like, when they say frozen in fear, I was frozen in fear. Because it's like, as soon as he told me that story, I could pick up on what was in the room. Before I couldn't pick up on what it was, but I could immediately feel something else in the room with us. After he told me the story, I finally got him to calm down and he went to sleep. He slept for literally a couple hours, and at this point, we're at 3 o'clock in the morning. Like clockwork, he hits that call light again. I go back in. I remember walking into the room and all of the sheets were taken off of the mirrors, which I thought was very strange because he wanted his mirrors covered up for a reason. I went over to Mr. Johnson and I touched him to make sure that he was okay. And this man was ice cold. He had died. As I went to leave the room to go contact a nurse, oh my God, I'm getting chills. I'm literally passing by this mirror. And as I'm headed out, on my left is the mirror. I turn and look in the mirror, and behind me, to the far wall of Mr. Johnson's room, I see a taller figure, and I see a shorter figure standing beside this taller figure that I would say is probably about the height of a 5-year-old child. I have never seen nothing like that in my life, ever. And I cannot explain the amount of fear that ran through my body, but I got out of that room so quick, I will tell you that. The crazy part is that when the nurse came in, we could not understand how these mirrors got uncovered. Even the one in the bathroom was uncovered. The one in his room was uncovered. Again, this is a man that just hurt his hip yesterday. There's no reason why he should have been out of bed taking these blankets off this mirror, and I know he wouldn't have done it anyway. Also, the fact that she felt like he had been dead for longer than I said he had. But again, I had just talked to Mr. Johnson. I had literally just talked to him. So I don't understand how a dead man talks, but maybe y'all can let me know. And when I tell you, baby, I only lasted 3 more days after that. I didn't sleep for days. I said, I'm not coming back. Y'all ain't.
There was one time while working as a home health nurse, I had a customer who would always talk to something or someone in an old rocking chair that sit in the corner of his house. Now, the first several times, I just thought dude was delusional or suffering from schizophrenia or something. Then one day, he started crying and begging for forgiveness, saying, I don't know how many times I have to say I'm sorry. I told them where you were buried. Now, at this time, I'm looking at dude like, so I asked, who is he talking to and what happened? And he told me a story of him playing with his black best friend in Mississippi secretly because his dad was a member of the KKK, in which Theodore Bilbo, he was the governor back then in the 1920s, was a member also. But one day his pops and his buddies caught them. He got slapped across the face and he told him to never have those N-words at his house. Then his father and his friends beat the little black boy until his chest caved in. He said he heard the bones cracking. Then he said they cracked his head open. Then they buried him near a swamp and he was told never to tell. And he said that secret and those spirits has haunted him everywhere he has moved. He asked if I could forgive him for all the damage that he's done to black people. Now, me, I told him, even though you seem like a cool person and I enjoy working up here with you and your family, but I wholeheartedly cannot and will not. Those are called spiritual reparations.
Y'all got cheated with the Miss Sue story because that music was so goddamn loud. I don't know where the volume adjusted itself because I put it on 10% and it came out at 300. So let's go ahead and just run that back for the people where the music was so distracting that they couldn't even get into the story. So this came from one of my followers named Nova Hans, and she basically told a story about how she worked in the second oldest psych facility in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and she had a patient named Betty, and her roommate name was Sue. One day out of nowhere, Miss Betty said that she wanted to change rooms. Confused by this, of course, Nova was like, why would you want to change rooms? I thought you guys were friends. And Miss Betty politely corrected her and was like, we are not friends. Okay, we are associates at best. And then proceeds to tell Nova the reason that's been visiting them every night at 10 p.m. like clockwork. So Nova was like, what black lady, right? And Miss Betty says, listen, it's a black woman that comes here to visit Miss Sue. She is a young woman in her 20s, dressed very nicely, except she has a noose around her neck, her eyes are missing, and her face is swollen. She also says that the night before she had a terrible nightmare. She knows what Miss Sue did to this young lady, and basically that the young lady let her know that she was coming to collect rent. Okay. And Miss Betty didn't want any parts of it. So they agreed and they moved her room. Once they got Miss Betty out of the room, the spiritual reparations commenced. Okay. I'm going to insert the video again. Hopefully you guys can hear it because I was shook. Okay. You cannot tell me that you don't pay for the shit you do in life whenever you about to be unalive. Okay.
I wanted to kind of do a partial video response, even though my story is in the comments. It's a lot of nuance to that story. So this is like the follow-up to that. So where I left off was that night, Miss Sue is screaming, like I said in the comments, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Now, I worked 11A to 11P. So I was there. Me and the team were there to hear her screaming, right? So we all run down to the room to see what's going on. Miss Sue in there fighting for her whole life. Like her whole life. Hands is swinging everywhere. So we kind of jump on Miss Sue to kind of stop her from screaming. And she's like, let me go, let me go. They're coming to drag me to hell. And we all jump back like, what the fresh hell is this happening right now? And we're like, what is going on? And she says, in her hysteria, still swinging at the air. She's swinging at the air. She says, and it's giving me chills because I clearly remember her saying, I'm going to hell because I killed this girl. Excuse me? Little Southern white lady? What you just say? She's swinging, like swinging at the air, like who, what, they, them was coming for her ass. And it was nothing we could do about it. It's literally nothing we could do. We just watched in horror. And then Stu let out this blood curling, like, it wasn't a wail, it wasn't a scream, it was a sound I had never heard before and pray I never have to hear again. And then it went quiet. And she fell back in the bed. Didn't she have a massive heart attack? Sue had a massive heart attack. That young lady, that black girl came, and whoever else was involved came and got Sue ass that night. I said, you know what? I don't think I'm going to stay in sight. But I ended up staying in sight. Yeah, so that's really the end of that story. All right, y'all. y'all. Bye.
You guys delivered in the comments. And some of the stories, I'll let you read them for yourself. Mama Bear 1845. I do in-home hospice. The scariest thing, I'm washing the patient in the bed and he pointed behind me. I turned around and there was a black woman in all black. She was beaten and her clothes were torn. I lost it in my head, kept cleaning, looking behind me. After 3 minutes, she was gone. Came every night till he died. The ultimate dash. Girl, I worked as a CNA. There was an elder W man, and he would talk crazy about 2 black boys sitting at his table watching him, always side-eyeing him. He did something to those boys, shaking my head. Miss T. Sweets. I'm sorry if I said it wrong, girl. When I was 14 and my granny was in hospice, I had an experience with her roommate. It was in the 80s. I'll never forget. My granny shared a room with an old white woman, and my granny kept saying, I need them to get me out of this room with her. I am sensitive and been able to see and talk to the dead, even as a small child. Well, me and my mom went to visit her. When we got in the building and began to walk to her room, I could hear the patients crying out. And some I would see the spirits standing there in their room. When I got to Granny's room, my stomach dropped to my toes. And when I walked in, I could see a young black female in the corner and her roommate was losing it. I looked at my granny and she said, you see her too, don't you? I said, yes, Granny. My granny asked me, how did she look? And I told her, she said, yes, that lady heard my voice and came from her side and kept saying, tell her, I am sorry, screaming, tell her, I know you can see her. When I looked up to see where the spirit was, she looked pregnant and had a rope around her neck. It freaked me out. I kept asking her, what did you do? What did you do to her? I ran out of that room so fast and began to cry. I'll never forget that. Granny was stuck in a room with her for a week, and Granny said that the spirit was wearing her out. The spiritual reparations, baby. That lady was evil and told what she did to that poor girl in her sleep. My granny said she didn't feel sorry for her at all. 2 days later, she died. Her last name was Applewhite. I'll never forget it. Part 4 of spiritual reparations. Jazz Renee, a lady told me for 2 weeks a colored little girl won't stop playing in my room, and I needed to get her out of there. She would also scream at her. Adrian Khan, 87. I'm a believer. I used to hire caregivers/nurses for an agency and always heard the stories. One story in particular was an older white woman who always saw little black children in her room. She eventually passed and the caregiver found a letter she had written and it mentioned kids who died in a fire. Sounds like she helped start it, but okay. Boobulicious. Girl, I'm a CNA hospice nurse. I used to do it on the weekends. I'm a natural born healer empath. I had an experience of an old white lady who was crying like crazy. She said there was a black young female dressed like 1920s dress. She used to tell me, did you see her? First day I didn't see her. I was tired, but the second and third day I saw this young black girl. My patient used to cry hysterically. I prayed for her, but all jokes aside, she probably did something really bad that I didn't feel that bad. That's why I stopped doing hospice. Way too much people have some heavy skeletons. Baby, I know that's right. Big dog uni. My dementia patient was hiding under the table crying, saying he's sorry for what he done to them boys. He raped them and unalived them. His family owns a funeral home, so I'm sure they cremated the bodies. Funeral home is still up and running. Andrea Lee. So at my first job as a CNA 7 years ago when I was 19, there was this white woman who after my first 2 months started screaming that there was a black man in all black that would come in her room and stand in the corner watching her throughout the day. And one day it was so bad that she was screaming that she was on fire and burning, then start asking us to put the fire out. Me and my coworkers were looking at her like, what the fuck? And this went on until she died. Well, I heard hell is hot, so there's that. Crystal, I was talking to my gran about people being met by those they once harmed, and she says they come back for them. I don't know how the fuck she did
Okay, guys, what did you think of those stories?
The sister asked, how would she know? She was watching Cosmo and Cal TV. Sub, like, share. That's how she knew. You dig what I'm talking about? Because this ain't no game. This is old knowledge. You just don't, it's just above your pay grade right now. So you're stuck in belief and subjectivity about it. When the ancientness of the ritual and its idea has been spoken about since man has been able to even tell a story. Right? As we closing out, I wanted to give a physical description of a knot being broken apart and what you find on the inside. Remember, right? They say this is the end for all tyrants and false gods, right? So let's look and see a knot being torn apart and what are its results. Now, to put a little context on this, we are in the book of Fergapati, and this is Hoab, right? Hoab in the book of Fergapati. He has been tasked with breaking up a hell knot that has roughly 1 billion people in it, right? And there's a certain way you have to do it, right? Because it's a real dangerous job. Well, he explains how he does it, you know, with his limited force, and then he explains what happens. Let's go see, right? This is the book of Fergapati, 28:20. And Hoab and his army fell upon the knot. Remember? This ball of impressed souls upon each other, tied together like a knot, a serpent's knot. Moving, congealing, foul smells coming from it, a dull roaring and moaning, and, you know, just a place of utter pain and darkness. His army fell upon the knot. This would be your true representation of what a hell would be. Right? Pulling at the external ones away and hurling them out, but not so rapidly, having fewer deliverers of this knot, for he had bequeathed an extra 1 million to Atrava outside of the walls. And after another 300 million were delivered, Hoab again ceased and joined with Atrava to assist, divide and group them from out of this hell knot, right? It was all pressed up on each other, almost like one major ill, sick, stinking spirit mass, right? He said he joined with Atrava to assist and divide and group them in the same way. And he bequeathed another 1 million of his army to Atrava, and then again resumed the attack on the knot, and thus continued till he reached the core of the knot, right? Having untied how many? Having untied the whole billion with a B, not million, 1 billion people mashed into each other. Could you imagine? Gradually lessening his own army and enlarging that of Atrava's. But look, and when Hoab came to the core of the knot, behold, he found Oib This is your so-called your god with the head of the ibis, right? Mind you, this is before Egypt existed. This is before Tahuti. This is before Thoth. There was already a false god named Oib, right? Funny that they called the bird, the ibis, the ibi, or the Oib bird, right? That is the bird of the so-called Thoth Tahuti. Did y'all know that was a false god? Hoab broke up a hell knot, right? This is what happens to every false god. This is what happened to Christ. This is what happened to Buddha, Brahma, Baal, Ashtaroth, Osiris, Aset, right? Set, Tahuti, all of them went to hell in hell knots. And when Hoab came to the core of the knot, behold, he found Oib, the false god, who falsely styled himself Thor, the Etherian. So could we also be seeing an ibis-headed god in Egypt styling himself after a thunder god? Anybody ever heard of Horus? All right, but we're going to get back to it. And in the midst of the knot, look, where they found Oib at, who was fakely calling himself Thor. Remember, this is the false god who had falsely styled himself Thor, right? They found amidst the knot jewels of rare value and stolen crowns and stolen symbols and rods and holy water, urns, incense, a broken wheel of the creator, a broken triangle of the gods, and in fact, so many things that one could write a book to describe it all. Suffice it to say, a false god and his kingdom had collapsed, and he fell, crushed in the glory of his own throne. There were with him 7 false lords who were crushed in the terrible fall. Now, with that being said, we see that the spirits can retaliate upon men in the flesh and upon the spiritual man himself upon his death. And with that being said, this is Jehovah Chronicles, number 173, Spirit Retaliation. I'm going to hit y'all with some new heat. Shout out to the homeboy Lushu, the light bringer, right? We're going to hit y'all with this new one, right? The Creator Gang Anthem. Shout to the Creator Gang, CGG, FGK, False God Killers. Shout to the 4 Horsemen. You dig what I'm talking about? Malachi Maccabee, Selah Shalom, Daryl Cosmon, and yours truly, the Cosmonian Cloud Kicker himself. You dig what I'm saying? With that, I'm going to hit y'all with this new Creator Gang Anthem. Check this out, y'all. And I'm out, right? But before I go, I just need y'all to do one thing for me. And that's to breathe in. Let the light in, because I'm Cosmon, and I'm out.
In the land of truth and light, where the spirits dance all night, the Creator gang shines bright, guiding us with all their might. Trumpets sound across the sky as we raise our voices high, praising the one most high under the hospice watchful eye. We sing songs of love and grace in this sacred space. For the Creator gang we embrace, their wisdom we chase, with trumpets playing in tune under the silvery moon. We dance until the morning sun, this connection never undone. Harmony in every beat, our faith is concrete. Through the pages of the hospice, ancient wisdom on display, teaching us the righteous way, leading us to a brighter day. With each trumpet blast, we're reminded of the past and the love that will ever last in this divine contrast. United in spirit, we uplift and hear it. We sing songs of love and grace in this sacred space. For the Creator gang we embrace, their wisdom we chase, with trumpets playing in tune under the silvery moon. We dance until the morning sun, this connection never undone. We sing songs of love and grace in this sacred space. For the Creator gang we embrace, their wisdom we chase.